So come over, grab whatever inspires you. We have herbs, we have mint, rosemary, basil, we have cucumber, we have different mix of citrus, we have mandarin, grapefruit, teas, pineapple, avocado. Be my guest. Do whatever you like.
In a basement in London's Covent Garden, a group of drinks industry professionals are in the middle of a training course. They've been tasked with making something delicious by Nicholas, a charismatic Italian who also goes by the name of Dr. Cocktail.
I want a cocktail ready in 8 minutes. Get ready. And it's like MasterChef. Go and run to the table. Let's go, let's go.
But the twist is, none of their drinks can contain alcohol.
So I've got jasmine, sparkling tea, I've got lime, I've got basil and rosemary.
I'm going to go for an orange, mint and probably a slice of pineapple cocktail. Something a bit tropical.
A bit of mint is refreshing, and lemon for the sour flavour. And obviously we're going to add some non-alcoholic spirits. Yeah, but I haven't decided how I'm going to finish it yet.
So I'm going to make a grapefruit and rosemary sort of spritz. And then I'm going to use the Everleaf Marine and then top it up with a little bit of soda, which should be a nice spritz with a nice little sour yet sweet edge. And the rosemary will elevate it as you drink with the senses.
One recommendation, be very careful when you shake soft drinks or sparkling stuff, because are going to explode. Very careful.
They're all here because they want to be part of the no and low movement. Customers are flocking to drinks containing little or no alcohol. It's staggering to think the sector, now worth some £380 million, grew by a quarter in the last year alone.
My name is John. I've got a bar in Reigate, which we do a lot of non and low alcohol products. And we do a non-alcoholic section in our bar, so customers can go around that section and see what we do, gives them confidence. It's going up every year massively. It's something we've got to take seriously now.
I'm Lucy Lumberg and I actually produce cider, so a cider producer, and we've just launched a 0.5 non-alcoholic cider. What we find with our drink is that people are interested in that because it's not a Diet Coke, an elderflower designated driver, but it's an acceptance that not everybody wants to drink alcohol. There doesn't have to be a specific reason behind it.
My name's Narmeen Cameron. So I run an events company and a non-alcoholic mobile bar company. So I've come today just to learn a little bit more about the industry. I already do a lot of work in the non-alcoholic space. I think it's really, really important, not just for health benefits, but in terms of inclusion. So I call it sober inclusion, because I believe everyone should be able to go out, enjoy themselves without the added pressure of drink. Like when we were talking earlier, the option should be with or without alcohol.
We have 3 minutes, 3 minutes to go, 3 minutes.
So we were just explaining to ourselves why we're here. I've come because I run an online website for sommeliers. It's a magazine and a membership, and we're going to take what we learned today and share it with them. So I'm researching for our own event about no and low.
Hi, I'm Maria, and my brand is the Midnight Muddler, and I do cocktail masterclasses and events. So it's normally alcohol based, so I've come here to try and learn a bit more about the low and no, because clients want that more and more. It's really taking off, so I just want to be part of that.
I thought I understood quite a lot about it. You know, I've come from the wine world, but now there's kombuchas and there's ciders, and just looking around the shop here, all the different categories, it's the range of what's available is far more than I was expecting, and we're in the industry. But yeah, diversity of products is enormous. I mean, a lot of our members, they actually make their own kombuchas and syrups because they feel the drinks they want for their customers aren't there, but they're coming. So yeah, we're here to research for them as well.
When you shake, you need to use the full length of the shaker. The full what? Length. Thank you. Get ready. Seal it. Block top and bottom. And shake.
The rattle of the mocktail shaker has been in full swing in the month just gone. The charity Alcohol Change estimates that an astonishing 15 million people were attempting to give Dry January a whirl this year, with the leading motivations including better sleep, improved health and saving money. A survey by the charity also suggested that 83% of those that gave up the booze said the availability of low alcohol and alcohol-free drinks was important in keeping them dry. So, what's on offer that is helping to drive the change? For Laura Willoughby, podcaster and founder of the mindful drinking movement Club Soda, it's all about quality.
It's absolutely taste. So people are coming back to drinks because they're good drinks in their own right, not because they feel that this is a compromise and at least it's better than water. They're coming back because they are liking what they're trying, and it feels very easy to put that into their context of their overall diet. And I think, when I think about the conversations I have with people when they come into the tasting room, people now walk in and go, we know alcohol-free beers are good. That's a standard now, whereas a few years ago people go, they're not really very good. People come in and go, alcohol-free beers are good, but what about the wines? What about the spirits? What have you got that's interesting? The other thing that's also happened is we've got lots of things that are mimics of the alcoholic product, particularly in spirits, but we've now got lots of things that aren't, things that are using techniques like, oxymels and shrubs and things like that to create really, really tasty drinks. And that makes it easier for people to go, well, you know what, I don't need to drink today because I've got this other delicious drink that feels like a treat.
Laura, you yourself, you're somewhat of a maverick in this space. I mean, what's led you to this spot, this position you're in?
The passion comes from that of all the behaviour change techniques that you can employ to change your drinking habits, to reduce how much alcohol you can drink. Switching an alcoholic drink for an alcohol-free one is one of the easiest things to do. I want to make that easier for people. But also from the very beginning, I was really passionate about the fact that if you don't want to drink today, you shouldn't stay at home. You should still go out, because our need to socialise is the one thing that has also not changed. Younger people drink the least, but they're also the biggest visitors to the pub still, right? So we should not be absenting ourselves from our social spaces just because we want to be a bit healthier. The market needs to shift in order to bring nice products in so that when everyone went out, they felt they were getting an equality of experience and that they were able to have a good time with their mates. And for me, that's the most important thing. So it's not about the liquid itself per se, it's about the fact that it's what that liquid does when you're in a social context. It's about how it allows us to still be a bit healthier but still go out. The idea that a young person could grow up and feeling that they can go to the pub but drinking alcohol isn't compulsory is really exciting for me, because less of us will probably, get into less of a mess with alcohol, as some people have done, if we were a bit more relaxed about, how much you drink.
What about your personal story? Were you someone that used to drink alcohol who then doesn't drink alcohol anymore?
Yeah, so I gave up 12 years ago, and in fact, this tasting room I've opened is opposite the pub I had my last drink in. All coincidental, but very funny. I'm a typical ladette generation drinker, so, smashing back quite a lot of red wine during the week. I've got a background in politics, so that was obviously fueled by lots of cheap white wine. And I was beginning to bore myself, really. I was drinking too much. I was in a job I wasn't enjoying. And so I decided to knock it on the head. And I really enjoyed how it made me feel. It, fired back up my synapses. But, I am a good liberal at heart, so it's never about me telling other people not to drink, but about saying, we should have choices.
One of the most common questions I hear about alcohol-free products is why are they largely priced very similarly to alcoholic ones when there's no tax on the products? I'm going
to tell you my answer on this. You might not like it so much, yeah, but anyway, we'll see. Well, first of all, in Britain, we actually don't know lots about tax, but we seem to be experts on alcohol duty. It's amazing, isn't it? So we all know that there's duty on our alcohol, but alcohol not only being naturally produced, therefore costs money to take out. It's also a flavour enhancer, so it makes a small amount of ingredients go an awful long way. So if your drink is alcohol free, if you're creating a beer with even arrested fermentation, you need more ingredients in that. Alcohol's a natural preservative, so you need other things in there to make sure it's preserved and kept well so that it is good for you. And also at the moment it's made in smaller quantities. So it isn't necessarily a big problem for the sector. It's definitely a curiosity, and definitely the trade worry about the price point. But for the consumer, they're more likely to have, their mates might have 3 or 4 drinks a night. They might have 2 instead of that many, and then they might also buy dessert. I mean, that's what I always do, so I just assume everyone else does that. But so they spend their money in different ways.
Yeah, but are you kind of saying, so if people are going out to the pub or restaurant, they're willing to spend a certain amount of money anyway, so does it really matter if it's an alcoholic one or
absolutely.
free?
But they're also going, but I also want to make sure I use my gym membership and go to the gym tomorrow, and I'm also trying to look after my health, and there's a value to looking after your health because we spend money on it all the time.
In my hand, I've just been given a pint of alcohol-free lager, Lucky Saint alcohol-free lager, and I'm about to chat with these two fellows. First of all, could you introduce yourself?
So I'm Kevin Lister, Head of Communications at Lucky Saint.
So my name is Blake Gladman. I'm Strategy and Insight Director at CAM. We are a market research agency working within the hospitality space in the UK.
So we at the Food Programme, we last looked at the alcohol-free category in December 2018. So it feels like a lifetime ago, especially in the drinks world. A lot has happened. Tell me about some of the latest research with regards to alcohol-free and where we're going as a category.
We have been speaking to 2,000 consumers on an annual basis around kind of their motivations and kind of behaviours around sort of alcohol consumption. Roughly 75, so 3 in 4 people are looking to moderate their alcohol consumption to some degree. So obviously that could be someone completely cutting down or someone just looking to maybe have one less glass of wine on a weekend. But I think what it shows, that size of that pool of people is roughly equivalent to the same size of the pool of people who drink alcohol. So in terms of a market, it's as big, potentially as big a market as the alcohol market in terms of the people who are there are looking for solutions to help them on their moderating journey. 2 things really that's probably driving that. One is awareness, so awareness of the impacts of alcohol, and we can probably talk about that in a second, and also then the visibility of seeing solutions in the marketplace. So, in the last probably 5 years, the influx of the new brands, finding it on draft in pubs and things like that, it's much more visible. So those 2 things combined really is kind of ultimately kind of creating a bit of a sweet spot of the demand is increasing, but also awareness and visibility is increasing too.
Who's drinking alcohol-free?
Everybody. However, those people who are more actively looking for actual kind of low and no products is more the younger demographic. So probably kind of 18 to 35 is sort of the real kind of where we're seeing kind of the real spikes of people interested in the category. I would say the over 55s are still probably a lot lower down in that in terms of their discovery and understanding of the category. But again, we are seeing that kind of grow, but probably at a slightly slower rate. I guess the key thing probably is interestingly is in terms of the difference in the demographics is almost the motivations for moderating. So the older demographic, it's probably at that stage where you maybe are kind of thinking a bit more about your health and long-term health. Whereas the younger demographic, it's slightly more kind of mental well-being as well as physical well-being, and also prioritising kind of social things that are outside of just alcohol focused. So it might be that they want to go and meet their friends in the bar after work, but they also want to be up early to go for a run in the morning, or they've got an important presentation, or they're trying to balance 2 jobs and trying to also start a business. All these sort of things that we see a lot of young people wanting to be doing. They're realising that you can't also burn the candle at both ends maybe as much as you probably could in the past.
And what about the stigma of drinking an alcohol-free product or pint over an alcoholic one? A lot of people would feel pressure to go to the pub or to go to a restaurant and to choose alcohol-free over an alcoholic product. Does that still exist?
Yeah, and I think certainly, so again, the sort of research we did recently showed that so 40% of people said that they'd be more likely to have an alcohol-free product if they knew they wouldn't be judged whilst having it. So to me, that suggests that people are, still feeling a bit like they would be judged by having an alcohol-free drink. And I think much higher for men, unfortunately, sadly, because I think there still is that element of you go to a pub with your mates and you're not drinking. It's a bit of a like, what's wrong, like what's going on? Oh, go on, have a pint type of conversation. I think that happens less, and I think there's part of that is probably around more greater awareness of mental health and generally kind of understanding other people's sort of point of view. I think a lot more, but I think in certain sort of demographics, I think it still does happen.
I wonder how many people go to the bar and are buying a round and sneakily buy pints of drinks like your Lucky Saint alcohol-free lager instead of a regular one.
And we've actually had that example. So a round of 4 people going to buy a round, and then the person who goes up being the person who swaps in an alcohol-free beer, but without telling their friends. And it does play to that point around there is still a stigma there. It's moved on a lot. I think this idea that you have to apologise for not drinking in some quarters has changed, but there's still a long way to go. And when it comes to Lucky Saint, something we definitely have observed is this trend around zebra striping. So this category has moved on from being the reserve of the person who isn't drinking for whatever reason that might be, and actually it's how you can incorporate alcohol-free beer into your lifestyle. So zebra striping is a great way to do that. The idea that you can have an alcohol-free drink and then an alcoholic one and so on, which will see you drink more alcohol-free and less alcohol.
The notion of zebra striping has taken off recently. According to research by CAM last year, a quarter of us have been doing it, with younger drinkers particularly keen. Not that many young people knew what it was actually called when our producer Robin hit the town in Bristol one evening.
I'm Bella and I'm drinking lemonade.
I'm Emily, I'm drinking rhubarb soda. Zebra striping.
Mean anything?
No!
I'll give you a clue. This is a programme about dry January and low alcohol and no alcohol beer. So does that help with the zebra striping?
Oh, so you have one alcoholic one and one non-alcoholic. Well, I don't drink, but I do drink non-alcoholic beer. And I've tried some really awful ones. And I really like Guinness Zero. That is the best to me.
I don't drink and I never have done, so it's the lemonade for me.
And I mean, you're both young people. Can I ask why you don't drink? I mean, is it a health move from you, or what inspires that?
I haven't drunk for maybe 18 months because I think that I was just drinking when I was feeling sad or something, and I was like, I don't think that's a really very good way to go about it. Yeah, so I just decided I'm going to try to not, and my life is a lot better without it.
People are a little bit more concerned about their health and they have other ways of socialising. Yeah, I think there's been like a cultural shift.
I'm Berglind and I'm drinking a lemon drop beer.
I'm Nick and I'm drinking an espresso martini chocolate stout.
I'm Julian, I'm on the ciders.
I'm Jane and I'm drinking Pilsner, I think. I honestly haven't got a clue. Zebra striping.
I was imagining like a zebra being born young with no stripes, and at a certain age it reaches its striping age. But maybe I'm miles off.
I think zebra striping is where you alternate between a alcoholic beverage and a non-alcoholic beverage. So pacing yourself with a glass of water between beers, I guess, is that? That's it. Yeah, you agree with that, Sebastian?
So you do a bit of zebra striping?
I do. I have the Asian flush gene, so I process alcohol differently and I go bright red when I drink. So I tend to pace myself with a glass of water.
If I'm going to drink a beer, I would rather have one that has alcohol in it. I think the taste is slightly better with the alcohol.
I actually went on away days with my work, and one of my colleagues is a beer expert, and we did a taste testing session where we did alcoholic beers and non-alcoholic beers, and we had to guess which one was alcoholic. For most of them we could tell, but there were a few ones in there that were really good.
Hangovers are tomorrow's problem. You don't need to do zebra striping, just get on with it.
Once the butt of many a joke, alcohol-free beer is now leading the charge for what they call the sober curious. You'll even find it in the mix for some of the lunchtime meal deals that line supermarket shelves. So how did it become a tasty alternative, and not just the watery resort of a designated driver? Well, we brewers have become better at taking the alcohol out of beer without removing flavour. But here's the thing. There's no one agreed method, no one technique that works best. It could be done through distillation, so the alcohol evaporates away. The alcohol could be removed by pushing a finished beer through a filter, a technique known as reverse osmosis. We'll see that in action in a brewery in just a moment. Or it might be through limiting fermentation by using a different type of yeast, so there's less alcohol produced in the first place. That's what happens at Bristol Beer Factory, where they've had to expand their premises to brew more of their alcohol-free brew known as Clearhead. Clearhead now makes up a whopping 20% of their output. Not bad for a beer dreamed up in lockdown.
Oh my goodness. So this is quite a unit. So we've walked into a
very open plan warehouse.
A very open plan warehouse with huge tanks, a brand new floor.
No.
So this is the future of Bristol Beer Factory.
Yeah, it is.
The head of brand, Clem Elphick, showed me around their huge new facility with their head brewer, Tristan Hembrow.
Soon this will feel a lot smaller. There's a lot more tanks than just this coming down.
Now, a word of warning. We're about to get technical. Before we begin, remember that in brewing, the word mash has nothing to do with potatoes. It's when malted barley is mixed with warm water. Now, that malted barley contains starches and enzymes. Those enzymes convert the starch into fermentable sugars, as Tristan explains.
For alcohol-free beer, we're doing high temperature mash. So instead of mashing in at around about 67 degrees centigrade, we're mashing in at around about 87 degrees centigrade. What that's doing is it's not creating the fermentable sugars that we would normally want for any other style of beer. We also use a maltotriose negative yeast. Maltotriose is a sugar, and by using a negative yeast, it's not going to ferment the sugar for us, so we're going to have a very small amount of fermentation, hence the 0.5 ABV.
Yeast is a job role, chews away on sugar and creates alcohol. So our aim is to get as little sugar from our malt mashing, as Tristan mentioned, released so that there's less sugar for the yeast to work with. And using a specialised yeast also means that you can work with less sugar.
Why have you chosen to do the essentially brew low technique where you produce less sugar to produce less alcohol? Why have you chosen to do that technique versus getting a de-alkalizer and removing the alcohol?
It suited us at the time. That brewing style is where we felt confident, and it plays into Tristan's skill set and all of our work with pubs. It keeps it really, really simple. We used a lot less water in the process as well, and we've managed to create a beer which Bristol's really proud of.
We are seeing a lot of breweries, craft breweries, adding alcohol-free products to their range and using the same technique that you're using, because it's simply so accessible to a lot of breweries. So it's very easy. You don't need new equipment, essentially. It's all about technique and the right yeast.
Yeah, technique's a huge word. Like, these are not easy beers to brew. We're not gonna sit here and say it's the same as brewing all our other ones. Tristan's skills to make this happen without that we were lost. So in terms of your systems you have to have in place, you have to be perfect. Alcohol hides a multitude of sins, and low alcohol, no alcohol means you cannot hide any sin. So you have to be on point with your brewing techniques. So yes, it's accessible, but you've got to be firing really well as a brewery to get it right.
Were you surprised by just how much you're having to produce of Clearhead compared to your full strength beers?
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I think it's added so much balance to our industry, and it's allowing a safe space for everyone to enjoy a pub or at home. And it's a very personal thing. It could be on a Monday or a Tuesday. You just don't want to drink on those nights when you're cooking, you love to have a beer. Or maybe you're going to a rugby game and you want to sink 8 pints of Clearhead with everyone else, but you're still involved in the situation. And the word balance for us is really important with this. It adds a space where anyone can feel safe and to enjoy both a pub or at home and enjoy a drink.
Hi. Hiya. I'm Jaega.
Just a short hop across the city is another of Bristol's many breweries with a different approach to removing alcohol from their beer. Wiper and True deploy reverse osmosis, and it all relies on a very important bit of kit. I just had to look inside.
So we're walking through the brewery. It's a double column of stainless steel tanks with lots of piping, beer moving between tanks. And in all this, I'm on the hunt for a special bit of equipment. It's called a de-alkalizer, and you don't often see this equipment in small breweries. So I am very excited to come and have a look.
My guide's with a man whose name is above the brewery door. That's the CEO and founder, Michael Wiper, and the brewery operations director, Marvin Lindner, who bought the de-alkalizer over from his native Germany.
And here we have the de-alkalizer.
Okay, so we've come to a separate room tucked away at the back of the brewery, and there's a de-alkalizer here, so lots of vertical tubes, lots of stainless steel, and it's very noisy. So we're going to go to a quieter spot in the brewery so you can tell me all about it. Okay, so for our listeners, tell us about what's happening in that room. How are you making your alcohol-free beer?
So we make our alcohol-free beer by brewing a normal strength beer, actually, like our best sellers. And we then have a very fancy bit of kit. Believe we are the only craft brewery actually in the UK using that. And we strip out the alcohol from the beer with a reverse osmosis system. So we basically filter out the water and the alcohol out of the beer.
Reverse osmosis is essentially a giant filter that is physically removing the alcohol from the beer.
The filters have gaps in the membranes that are the same size as alcohol molecules. So we run that one direction around the filters, and in the other direction we run water, and through reverse osmosis the alcohol passes through the filter and goes from the beer and into the water, and you end up with alcohol-free beer at the other end.
So you end up with a beer that's 0% or 0.5%? I assume 0 if you're using a dealcoholizer.
We go to 0.5.
For us, when we did the testing, just the 0.5% was the best flavour and was the best quality and had the best body. It does, that small amount of alcohol does carry a lot with it. So we can technically do it, but we feel that the 0.5% brings a huge amount to it.
And in terms of the brewery and the journey that you've been on, I came to your site years ago, it must be pushing 8-9 years ago now, your other sites, and the change is really, it's quite unbelievable to see. Like, you're in a brand new site, lots and lots of tanks, you have a dealcoholizer, which I know costs a lot of money. I mean, this change and this journey you've been on, where does alcohol-free beer sit within your growth and your journey and your business?
For us, it's a huge part of the growth story. We kind of forecast for it to become about 10% of our sales, but overnight it's got to 15%, and in a month like January it's sort of 25%. We're thinking now that in 5 years or so that it could be half-half for our product mix, so we could be 50% beers with alcohol in and 50% alcohol-free.
Did you ever think when you started a brewery that you could potentially be selling 50% of your products as alcohol-free?
Not for a moment.
And that number, 50%, I mean, do you think that's realistic?
It would depend on the market growing at the same pace and us really pursuing it, but it's totally doable, it's totally achievable, yeah.
Excellent. So we've spoken so much about this lovely beer. Can we please taste some?
Of course.
Okay, great. So you've set aside a lovely display of alcohol-free beers for us. Talk me through the collection.
So we've put together here our standard beers and then the alcohol-free versions of them. So we've got our lager called Today and then the alcohol-free version called Tomorrow. And then
I like what you've done there. Today and tomorrow.
That's it. The whole campaign around it was about enjoy tomorrow.
Can we try the alcohol version?
Of course. So this is why one of the key reasons we invested in the dealcoholizer. It's very hard to get that cleanness and that crispness when you use the other techniques of stop fermentation or whatever you're using, and they often come with slightly odd flavors with them. There's the kind of worty sweetness that you were talking about, but then they just have something that's a bit strange. When you have a full healthy fermentation and then just strip out the alcohol, you can get this. It's just tastes like the beer without the alcohol in it. It's as simple as that.
So, what are some of your earliest memories of drinking alcohol-free beer? I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I associate like my first alcohol-free beers when I was young, and I did sport and I went to the sauna, and then I had an alcohol-free wheat beer, and that's like just amazing.
How young are we talking?
Like 14.
Okay. So there's a big association between sports and trying alcohol-free beer in Germany. It's just a regular drink.
Yes. There are also many like flavored versions, like you have like grapefruit in there. So it's like a healthier version really, and like especially after sport, when you want to get back your, like when you sweat a lot, you want to get back your minerals. It's isotonic, it goes quick into your body. So yeah, it's nice.
And should we try it versus the alcoholic versions? This is 4.7% this beer. Now, it's interesting. So I'm not going to sit here and drink an alcohol-free lager versus an alcoholic lager and say they taste the same. They clearly don't. I would say, whereas the alcohol version is thicker, it is just generally a wider flavour, and it is really delicious. and the alcohol-free version, it is lovely, but you can taste it's a little bit thinner. It's generally a lighter beverage. We're looking at these two side by side. I certainly wouldn't miss the alcohol in the alcohol-free version. If I was coming here and I was zebra striping, where I was drinking one alcoholic version versus an alcohol-free version, I certainly would be more than happy to sit here and drink both. I mean, you've done a really great thing. They both taste fantastic. Very, very clean.
Thank you very much.
That's certainly, in our experience, is that when people come here, you have the alcohol-free version at the end of the day, and it's so refreshing and so light and zesty. But then the other part is if you're staying for the night and you move to your third beer as an alcohol-free, it's just a bit lighter. You get the same satisfaction, but it's a slightly different thing. It's refreshing and it's rehydrating, and it sort of just keeps that momentum.
How big is January in the business? How important is this month for what you do throughout the year?
The really interesting thing for us is how the market has changed since we started 12 years ago, where it followed a tradition of December was huge in beer sales and all pubs were really busy, and it was kind of where you made a huge amount of the kind of year's revenue, and then Jan was dead. Last January we sold more beer than we did in December of 23, and I think we're on track to do the same again this year. So it's become a really vital part of our kind of sales mix, and so our business has grown 40% in total year on year, but our alcohol-free sales are doubling. So they're outpacing the growth of the whole business, and I think that's the trend that we're seeing in the market. It's the fastest growing segment. So I think what we're seeing now is just that continued trend out of January. I think that's now where a lot of people are putting their marketing campaigns and energy because of the sort of association, but really the kind of lasting trends are going throughout the year.
I want to talk about pricing. What's the difference between how much you sell these for? So let's take your lager tomorrow, which is alcohol-free, versus your lager today, which is 4.7%. What's the price difference?
We price these in our own venues at £5.60 a pint for the alcohol-free, and then £6.30 for their alcohol equivalents.
So not a huge difference there. And considering there is quite a big difference in duty, why is the price so similar between an alcoholic beverage and an alcohol-free?
So for us, it comes back to making the best possible thing we can, and that process that we put it through, we make a full strength beer and then we reduce the alcohol from it. So it still has, whilst the duty is lower, it still has the same process steps and ingredients that go into it, in fact slightly more.
Guys, thank you so much for showing us around, for letting us into the brewery. It's been such a great experience, and to come here 8-9 years later and to see where you've come, how you've grown, it's really quite something to see. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was astonishing to hear an established brewery like Wiper & True predicting that half of all of its beer might be alcohol-free within 5 years. And the charge for alcohol-free is global. In a sign of just how far the alcohol-free movement has come, there is now a World Alcohol-Free Awards ceremony. It's now in its 3rd year, and Chrissy Parkinson is its co-founder.
Last year we had drinks from 21 countries around the world.
Wow.
We worked really hard to get drinks in from all around the world.
I've judged my fair share of alcohol-free categories, but tagged on to other alcoholic competitions.
Yes.
So it being kind of a small part of a bigger competition. You having an awards on its own just for alcohol-free products, that's a huge development in the category.
Yes, and it's a very necessary one because although people are well trained in the skills of tasting and judging alcoholic drinks, those skills don't map directly to drinks without alcohol.
What's the picture like in other countries?
It's very varied around the world, but it's growing strongly everywhere. So we've had drinks come in from Taiwan, from Thailand, from South America, from all over Europe. Northern Europe has traditionally been faster to adopt these drinks than Southern Europe has, but we've got drinks coming in increasingly from Italy, Spain and Portugal. So it's a very widespread movement.
What about the Middle East?
The Middle East is interesting because there's obviously a strong demand there, but there hasn't been a great deal of production of these drinks there. I think that is changing.
I'm interested in the approach of drinks makers. Is the goal to imitate alcohol, or is it to create a whole different category?
Well, I think both exist. And again, if you go back in time, 6 or 8 years, there was more effort going into mimicking alcoholic drinks. You know, the Holy Grail then was something that looks and tastes like a gin or a whiskey or a wine, particularly a red wine, but doesn't have alcohol. It's quite a different scene now because I think there's more confidence, and a lot of producers are striking out and producing drinks that aren't remotely similar to anything we know of as alcoholic.
Can we have some examples?
We're seeing a lot of drinks where they take inspiration from something traditional. So traditional drinks like kombucha and shrub and switchel are being repurposed, if you like, and developed into really sophisticated drinks. So last year at the World Alcohol Free Awards, in fact the last 2 years, we had one producer who was making kombucha, but it bears no relationship to the cans of kombucha you might have picked up in a tube station. It was really rich, savoury, there was umami, it was very aromatic, and he had a range of 3 drinks, and we were really having fun sort of working out what foods you could have them with. Very complex, very impactful drinks.
At the World Alcohol Free Awards, I mean, you're in a position where you look at the entire alcohol-free market. I mean, which category of drink is exciting you the most in terms of alcohol-free development?
I think the category that everybody is waiting for with bated breath to really take off is the wine category, because there's been a sense of disappointment around wines without alcohol for a long time. And what we're seeing is producers who are finding ways to move past that and come up with really good drinks. Personally, I love the more wacky stuff. You know, I love it when we get kombucha that tastes like a 30-year-old Madeira, as we have had, you know, or a shrub that can sort of out-martini the most potent, you know, James Bond-style martini you could ever have. Things like that I really enjoy. So I think the short answer is there's excitement and evolution and new things happening right across the different categories. So everywhere you look, there's something that's different to what we tasted last year.
So the easiest serve with the social is just with ginger ale.
We're back at the alcohol-free workshop in central London where we started the programme. The attendees are now sampling some of the new types of alcohol-free drinks that Chrissy was just talking about. The person filling their glasses is Dash Lilly. He's the co-founder of a brand called 3 Spirit. This range of so-called botanical elixirs uses very different ingredients like chili pepper, lion's mane mushroom and valerian root. Dash is looking for his drink to mimic what alcohol does without being alcoholic.
We celebrate the fact that alcohol is the daddy of functional drinks, let's be honest. Function's nothing new. Everyone understands what tea and coffee and alcohol do. And so we use a plethora of tools and ingredients and botanicals. And so, you know, like I think on one hand, it sounds really far out there, but at the same time, people have been using plants to feel different for thousands of years. And most of the world uses them every single day for that purpose in the form of tea, coffee and alcohol.
Do you think our bond with alcohol is breaking?
I hope not. And that might sound ridiculous from a non-alc person like myself. But no, I think we're just giving ourselves more options. I think we're entering an interesting age. Like, you know, there's so much interesting tech and acceleration in certain areas. Why do we still only have these very blunt tools when it comes to drinking? Like, there are other ways to be intoxicated in a socially beneficial way. And I think for many, many years, centuries, it's been alcohol. And it's been, I'm either drinking or I'm not drinking. And we're really interested in this third space, this third way of drinking, which is what's in between, which is where these interesting functional ingredients, botanicals, nootropics, adaptogens are coming in and giving people interesting alternatives.
So the social lubricant that a lot of us do use when we go out, when we have fun, when we interact with our fellows, you're looking to find exactly what that is, the next social lubricant.
Alcohol is very good at that. Getting together, like the social rituals of going to the pub or going to a bar or having a bottle of wine with a meal, they're really important rituals for mental well-being and health. I'm not someone that just thinks alcohol is bad, but what's interesting is, why should it always be alcohol that helps you do those positive things? It should be a choice, options, so that your toolbox is full of tools rather than just one thing.
There's no question that our relationship with alcohol is changing. In 2022, the World Health Organization declared that no level of alcohol consumption is safe for our health. A sobering thought. And so the dial is shifting. Younger drinkers in particular are moderating their consumption through techniques like zebra striping. And the market is responding with totally different drinks, as well as convincing imitations of the alcoholic ones. For the thirsty, there has never been so much choice, and surely that's something we can all drink to.